This is a 2021 Mini Cooper John Cooper Works Countryman ALL4. And today I'm going to go ahead and give you an overview of the exterior, some of the interior features, and share my driving impressions. So what is John Cooper Works? Well, it's the performance division of Mini, and this is their edition of the Countryman, which is Mini's largest model. It's basically a small SUV at this point, not really a compact car. And John Cooper Works models in the past have definitely had very strong performance, especially in terms of the handling, but have always kind of lacked in power, especially compared to rivals. So this one, for the 2020 model year, this is a 21, Mini updated the power for the bigger models, the Countryman and the Clubman, and now it has 300 horsepower and over 300 pound-feet of torque. Really significant performance upgrade over the standard Cooper or the Cooper S. Let's go ahead and take a look under the hood. You can see in typical Mini fashion, actually the headlight is a cutout, and so the headlight kind of remains like this and you have a hole in the hood. But under here we have a BMW twin power turbo inline four-cylinder, 2 liters. Twin power being that it has variable turbine geometry, and this one is rated at 301 horsepower and 328 pound-feet of torque to all 4 wheels. So if you saw a picture of the Mini Countryman, you might think that it's a compact car like the rest of the Minis because of its kind of boxy shape. But as you can see, I mean, it is quite tall. This is a real SUV. They've basically taken the proportions of the 4-door Mini and kind of scaled it up the whole way. So it definitely photographs smaller than it is. And when you see one in person, you do realize that this is a significant size and it's a small SUV. So the John Cooper Works exhibits typical bug-eye Mini front styling, and this one with the red accents, the theme does continue along into the front grille here with this piece, and we do get a nice thing that looks kind of like a front splitter, but it's actually just a style piece. But honestly, that's it's better because you aren't gonna scratch this as easily on a curb or when you're going into a driveway. So the John Cooper Works gets a sports exhaust. It's dual exit, and these are some of the nicest looking tailpipes I've seen, especially at this price point. Sounds really good, and it does have a valved exhaust. So you change it to sport mode, it gets louder. Change it to normal mode, it gets quieter, and well, you get the idea. The wheels that come with the John Cooper Works are also pretty cool. However, they don't look all that sporty. You do get a John Cooper Works cap in the center, red John Cooper Works brakes, but interestingly, they didn't decide to equip it with high-performance tires. This is a Pirelli Cinturato P7, which is pretty much just a standard luxury car tire, so nothing too special there. Let's go ahead and look inside the trunk, but first you can see with this John Cooper Works got blacked out badges for Mini as well as Countryman. You can also see it comes with the Union Jack style tail lights, so that comes with the John Cooper Works, a nice kind of a traditional Mini touch. But yeah, let's go ahead and open up the rear liftgate. It is power operated and it is quite small in here. The proportions of this car do lend to better rear seat legroom than some other small SUVs, and that takes space out of the trunk. So this trunk is actually pretty much the smallest in class. If you think of like a small SUV like the Hyundai Kona, this has an even smaller trunk than that. So Mini has really thought about the driving position for the John Cooper Works. I think you're able to get really low in the car, closer to the road, makes it feel like you're going faster. I also really like the design of these seats. They're quite supportive, and for me, the width of the bolsters is just perfect. It's not squeezing me too tight. They nailed it, at least for me, in that regard. Something that's a little bit weirder about the seats is that most of it is leather, and then they did decide to put a little bit of Alcantara on this side bit here. Maybe it would make more sense to put the Alcantara on the actual bolster instead of on the outside surface, because it's not actually providing any additional grip. But with that said, the seats are quite comfortable and lend themselves very well to sporty driving or long distance driving. So this is the Mini center infotainment system. I don't know if I'm a fan of it. It definitely does take some cues from BMW's iDrive interface, but just for me, the weirdest thing is that This is a rectangular screen in a round area. They're just trying to keep the original design theme of earlier Minis, where there's a big round speedometer in the middle, and now they're putting this infotainment system. For me, it really doesn't work. I think it's time to drop the circle in the middle and go for a bigger screen instead of being limited by the shape. Something that I really like about Minis is these awesome dedicated switches down here. This is your start, engine, stop. This is really satisfying to push. Got traction control off in an easy to find location on the John Cooper Works, and this is your drive modes switch as well. So I really love these buttons, and I like that they have these pieces in between, like kind of prevent you from hitting the wrong one. This is really cool. This shifter works the exact same as it does in many BMW models. It's a little bit of a different style. They did change it up. Nice, we get some red stitching on the shift boot for the John Cooper Works. And then this interface here, again, it is physically different buttons than the BMW system, but it's sharing all of the parts, and this is the same way that you would navigate a BMW infotainment system. The implementation of the heads-up display is a little bit weird on this car. It is blinking on camera. It doesn't look like that to the eye. But it is kind of a separate glass panel that pops up when you turn on the car instead of projecting onto the windscreen. So this is your driver view here. I really like the materials on the steering wheel. These are, it's a really good feeling steering wheel. These buttons, they look a little bit plasticky, but and the way that they stick out is kind of funny, but it's all quirky and interesting, and they do feel pretty good to touch. On the John Cooper Works, you can see that we have this trim here. It is plastic with these lines coming down it. I think it looks pretty nice, and you aren't really going to touch it, so it's fine. Soft touch plastic on top of the dashboard. Below, it is completely hard. And then taking a look at the door panel, again, all soft touch plastic up here, and then we have either leatherette or leather here. I'm not really sure. This is plastic, but we do get some nice metal switches. And then here for the door grab, this is another fun feature with Minis, is that when you pull it, the whole thing kind of comes out like that, and so your lock and unlock buttons are along for the ride. So with the leather that's on this Mini, they're giving you just a hint of what you can get, just a little bit of quilting. They've also done a diamond style on the floor mat as well. But when you get the John Cooper Works, and actually when you get pretty much any Mini, there is an optional premium leather upgrade where you get full quilting on the seats, and I think that looks really cool and classes up the interior. Another nice touch is the inclusion of a John Cooper Works badge in the door sill. Stepping into the back seat of the Mini, it's really great. I've got a lot of leg room and a generous indentation in the back of this seat here. Plenty of headroom because of the boxy style of the car. Kind of funny little baby headrests here. You can flip them up like that. It is really nice that the panoramic sunroof extends the whole way. That's something that comes in the iconic trim, which this JCW does have. That's a pretty serious option package. Also includes the dynamic damper control and a lot of other premium features. A separate sunshade for the rear, which is nice. And we do have climate vents, but no separate climate zone. And then something else that's a little bit weird is you don't get much of a standard armrest here. So if you want to rest your arm, you're kind of out of luck. All right, so I've got the Countryman John Cooper Works in sport mode here. Definitely some very good sounds from the exhaust, that's for sure. Acceleration feels really strong. I know there's a lot of really high horsepower cars these days, and this only has around 300, but it really gets moving. This is pretty strong in terms of acceleration. I think this one is rated for 0 to 60 in 4.4. That feels a little bit ambitious to me, but certainly this car is going to feel fast to anybody who drives it, and especially with the accompanying racket. Yeah. Especially when you're really hammering on it in terms of acceleration, you get a nice pop in the exhaust on the gear shift. So that's pretty cool. Although it's not crazy with the pops and bangs on the overrun like some cars are. So I've got it in sport mode here, and absolutely I can tell a difference in terms of the suspension from the standard mode. It's definitely much firmer. I think this is kind of pushing it in terms of what the acceptable ride quality would be for this. I mean, this is really essentially a small SUV, and most people, even if they are looking for a little bit more performance, are probably going to be a little bit disappointed with how stiff the ride is on this thing. But it is nice that you have the adjustability. Once you take it out of sport mode, here, I'll do that now. It definitely does, like, quiets up the exhaust, and also the suspension is definitely a little more compliant. Still on the firmer side of things. Heading into some corners here, the Mini feels very well balanced. It's got some nice turbo sound as well. I actually think the steering is pretty good. It's kind of artificially heavy, but very direct, and there's not too much feedback from the road, but it's a little more precise than I was expecting. No, not really any slop in it at all. Definitely when you have the exhaust in sport mode, it's a constant presence in the car. It is pretty noisy. Although for a four-cylinder, this is a pretty good sounding exhaust. One of the better four-cylinder performance exhausts that I've heard. So even though this Mini does have a lot of the latest features in terms of the radar cruise control, and it even has kind of a heads-up display and really good parking camera system, but it does not have blind spot warning, and this is something that is missing from all Minis. Maybe it has to do with the kind of unique shape of their door mirrors that they do, but it is kind of frustrating, especially when this car is over $50,000 and has a lot of other tech features. You would really expect it to have blind spot warning, but it actually doesn't. Yeah, this BMW twin power turbo four-cylinder, in a world of 2-liter turbocharged four cylinders, this is one of the better ones. It really continues the torque all the way out to the red line, which on this one is 6,000 RPM. I mean, not too high, but it's nice that the torque doesn't drop off at the end there. So the Countryman John Cooper Works kind of occupies a weird space in the market. It's pretty fast, but not as fast as a Macan or an SQ5. It's also smaller than those cars. It's much more expensive than a regular Mini, and not quite as expensive as a BMW X3 M40i, something like that. That would be similar, or maybe even a little better in terms of performance. So in terms of the market space that it occupies, it is a little bit of a weird zone. It's basically all to itself in terms of the price and the performance level. And if you're a Mini brand enthusiast, this is going to be a great car for you. It's a lot of fun. But I think for most people, the ride is probably going to be a little bit stiff. Either if somebody's looking for a car that's exactly this size and they want it to be higher performance, then this is a really good option. But it's just a little bit weird in how much. I mean, it's so much more expensive than a Mini Countryman. And while they do a great job to class up the interior and add all the features that they have available, it's still a lot of money for a Mini. And if you aren't dedicated to this form factor, you could be, there's any number of cars that have this level of performance for maybe a little bit less, or also this level of performance and a greater deal of luxury for a little bit more. Definitely there's a lot of premium materials in here, but I'm not sure to what extent is this a luxury car. Yeah, at this price point, and I'm not sure if I can recommend this car unless this is exactly what you're looking for, because it is delivering a really focused performance car package. and unless like you like this is the perfect size for your garage or something, like you really love the styling of it, and the styling is unique, I'm not sure that I can recommend this car, especially over something like a Volkswagen Golf R, which is going to be the same level of performance and almost the same size for like $10,000 cheaper.